What is up, everybody? This is a very exciting week because we're about to kick off the 2020 Bassmaster Elite Series season on the St. Johns River in Florida. So if you haven't already signed up, make sure you get over to bassmasterfantasy.com. There are 3 prizes for every single event. The first place prize is a $2,500 Bass Pro Shops gift card. You heard that right, $2,500 for a free fantasy fishing league. There's also a second place prize of $1,000 cash money. Cash money. They're going to send you a check to your name. Can you believe that? And then the third place prize is a $500 Rapala gift pack full of all kinds of awesome stuff. Every single event is going to have a lot of prizes, so make sure you get over and get signed up. Make sure you get over to my buddy Hellabass and his YouTube channel because he does fantasy fishing podcasts. There's a full breakdown on how the whole fantasy fishing thing works and to give you all the tips and tricks, except for how to make the right picks, because clearly if you want to make the right picks, you come to me. So head over to his channel, but take it with a grain of salt. So I'm coming after him this year. He's one of the 4 fantasy pundit picks. We've got myself, Rich Lindgren, Thomas Allen, and the legendary Pete Robbins, all writing for you, bringing you our best. So I just want to talk through a couple of my picks with you and maybe go over a few of the other guys' picks as well. That way you have the best shot possible at that top prize $2,500 gift card at the end of each tournament, sponsored by Rapala. Let's dive into a couple picks. Let me tell you what's going on. So if you remember last year, there was an awesome tournament down there. This year is definitely looking like it's going to be an awesome event too. One of the things to consider for 2020 Bassmaster Elite Series tournament on the St. Johns River is time of year. What's going on with those fish? Rick Clunn won in legendary fashion, as only Rick Clunn could do, and brought in a 34-pound, almost 35-pound bag on the final day, including 2 massive bass that weighed almost 20 pounds all by themselves. So he won with 98 pounds, a little over that, almost 99 pounds. And he smashed the field. So I would anticipate the winning weight to be somewhere around the same because just how the fishery is setting up, the warm weather leading up to it. If you watch the Toho event down a little further south, they had a really hard time catching the fish. Part of that was because the fish were just coming in to spawn, and they were catching them just a little bit ahead of when it was really, really going to bust wide open. So my anticipation, given that this is really the same week of the year as last year, that this tournament's going on. Last year was February 7th through the 10th. This year it's February 6th through the 9th. And so it's going to be, there's a really good chance that this is going to be that magic window where those big females come in to spawn. So my suggestion would be to look for guys who are sight fishermen, guys that want to cruise the bank, put it on high, and go and find those big females. And hopefully they're in an area where they're just continually coming in. But also look for guys that know how to catch fish that are moving constantly, that are coming in to spawn, that are they're making their way to those stopping points, those spawning areas, the spots where they're going to come in right before they move into spawn. So in bucket A, I am going with a guy who just won the first FLW Tour event of the year. John Cruz won on Sam Rayburn last week, and I mean that guy he wins everywhere he goes. He's a shallow water guy. He's a sight fishing fanatic. Now he's not going to have a lot of time, but that guy knows how to find those fish, and if he can get in there and find those fish in this tournament, find those ones to win, he will make them bite and he'll put them in the boat. And there's nobody else that has momentum like John Cox right now. So definitely going with John Cox in bucket A. My secondary suggestion would be to go with somebody like one of the Johnson brothers, either Chris or Corey. Now, Chris last year was second place. Corey was 8th. And they both had phenomenal tournaments. They were flipping shallow grass, catching giants in the that were coming up to spawn. So can't go wrong with either one of those guys. They just know how to find big fish, and they capitalize on them. So all 3 of those guys are going to finish high. Now, you wonder, why am I not picking Rick Clunn? Now, Rick Clunn, Lord bless him, he's going to do well as well. He just knows way too much about that place to not know where they're coming. I can't bank on another victory there. I do think he's going to finish high, but I think a lot of guys that are consistent, they're going to finish high. And while Rick Clunn will do well, I think there's going to be some guys that, number one, that beat him, that are going to come in a couple spots higher than him, but also his ownership is going to be so stinking high by the time this tournament gets here that it's going to be tough to pick him. Bucket B, the one and only John Cruz. I'm going with John's here. John Cruz caught an 11-pound bass last year. Now you think maybe that's a fluke. Maybe that's the only thing that got him in the top 10. But even without that bass, if it was a 1-pound keeper, he still would have been in the top 10 last year. So don't count John Cruz out just because he smashed his personal best, because he could go out and do it again. There's no doubt in my mind there. If you want another guy, Chad Morgan-Taylor, really good flipper. He knows how to track fish. He's not afraid to follow them. He's not going to get stuck in one spot hoping they're going to show back up. He will follow them as they move in this tournament. Fletcher Shryock in Bucket C is who I have right now. That guy, he is a he's sort of a roller coaster, but if you keep up with him at all, you know that he loves sight fishing. He's really good with spawning bass, and he could do really, really well here, given that fits his style. Now, he's not necessarily the best under pressure, but he is a third-year elite now, and so he's got the jitters that are, hopefully he's able to shake those off a little quicker, get a good start, and move in quick. Now, Clark Windlet, on the other hand, is my backup, and I'm still thinking about switching to him. He is one of the best sight fishermen out there. He is notorious. He's built his reputation sight fishing. He's really, really good, and he almost made a top 10 last year, but he had a short bag one day. Day one, he missed putting a limit together, and that really hurt him. So I don't think he's going to make that same mistake this year. I think he is so ready to get back out there, he's going to make it happen. In Bucket D, Derek Hudnall. Derek Hudnall is one of those guys that is going to be a household name in the Elite Series. Now, there's a lot of guys that have started to build their reputation and that have shown that they know what they're doing out there. I think Derek Hudnall is definitely one of those guys. Now, he didn't have a really great finish last year. He was sort of middle of the pack, but I really think that if he can put together 3 solid days, that he's going to have a really, really solid event. And you know he's ready to get back out there. And if we learned anything from Cayuga, he knows how to find a big fish occasionally. And so he could come in with a giant, and it could pay off in a big way. So hopefully he does well. If you want to throw your money at somebody else who's consistently inconsistent, go with Steve Kennedy. That guy loves to smash big fish like this pre-spawn with a big old swim bait. And you know he's going to be doing some of that here. Last year he had a really, really, really good day, and he backed it up with a really, 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 really bad day. And I think he may have zeroed or had 1 or 2 fish. So it was really bad. Either way, tough day for old Steve Kennedy. So Bucket E, you probably already know the name Buddy Gross. If you don't, I don't know where you've been. That guy has smashed it over on the FLW series, and he is coming over to the Elites on fire. He is a Chickamauga guy. He loves to fish Florida waters. He's really, really good in Florida, and so I anticipate he's going to show us what he is made of here this week in Florida. So look for him to do well, and I think that if there's a lot of other guys in there you could possibly pull in there, but I'm going to wait a little while before I really dig into some of those other names and see what their style is before I put them on my fantasy team. And then a good backup is Frank Talley. He is no longer a freshman, and so hopefully he will be able to shake those jitters off and come out swinging this year and catch us some big old pigs. So really, really looking forward to this season. As always, my goal is to win, but I've been consistently in the 90th percentile the last couple of years, and so I'm looking forward to keeping that going. And, of course, it's always to beat Thomas Allen. So going after him, because he takes all of our articles, and then he picks the best ones out of those articles and write his whatever. So really, he's utilizing the pundit picks just like everybody else. That's speculation, by the way. So like I said, you've got a couple options when it comes to your fantasy pundit favorites. So I just wanted to go through a couple of these here with you. So in Bucket A, guess what? we all agree. John Cox is the way to go. So Pete Robbins, John Cox, secondary Drew Cook, and over with Mr. Rich Lindgren, John Cox, and a alternate is Seth Feider in his opinion. So in bucket B, Mr. Rich has Patrick Walters, and Pete Robbins is going with Brandon Palaniuk. A couple of backup picks there, John Cruz or Gerald Swindle, either one. So they're both kind of going sentimental favorite. They've also got some solid stout talent in there also. Bucket B, these guys are super original, going with Brandon Cobb. He smashed a bunch of sight fish on Lake Fork last year, including an 11-pounder. So I can see why that would be a decent pick. And then their backups are Greg DePalma or Greg DePalma. So they are not they're not varied there. Bucket D, they are both going with Mr. Schmidt, and I don't know a lot about Brian Schmidt, so I guess we'll see how that goes this year. He's done well in Florida in the past, so I guess they're banking on that. And going with Kyle Welcher over on Mr. Rich Lindgren's picks. Kyle Welcher is one of those guys that's been around for a while in the opens and just in the qualifying level for a long time, and now he's in the elites, and he is going to be a star. There's no doubt about that. So we'll see if he can pull out some tricks and come out strong. Pete Robbins is going with Steve Kennedy. So as a backup. So just so you know, if Steve ends up switching to Steve Kennedy, if Pete ends up switching to Steve Kennedy at any point in this tournament, he's supposed to text me, because that means that I am to get away from it as fast as possible. On the other hand, if he ends up not picking Steve Kennedy, he's also supposed to let me know, and that way I can reap the benefits of Steve Kennedy doing well. Because when Pete picks him, it's doomsday for Steve Kennedy. So bucket E, they're both going with Austin Felix. I don't know a ton about Austin Felix. I know that he is a really good northern guy, and apparently he's a decent bed fisherman. So he's got some quality stats. So we'll see if he can come out swinging here. Taku Ito in Pete Robbins' article for a backup, and the pre-spawn alternate here in Rich Lindgren's team is Destin Demarion. So really varied picks there. Well, sort of. But either way, there's some food for thought. Really excited to kick this season off this Thursday. Y'all stay tuned. Thank you for jumping on. If you don't mind, like, comment, and subscribe. I just dropped my first video of The Road, Episode 1. I'll try to put a link in the description, or if I can figure out how to do it, I'll put one up here in this corner. But either way, I really appreciate you guys joining in with me, and look forward to a really good season.